it generates debt. The second, as I've said, is the idea that you lose opportunities to do other things that would have benefited everyone in society, not just the developer clique of the city. Although the Olympics claims that they're green, that they are environmentally friendly, you'll notice a lot of trees coming down. No Olympics is ever environmentally friendly. For example, in Turin, they cut down 4,000 trees.
Politicians and game organizers responded to their concerns by making a series of commitments and promises that guaranteed environmental and social sustainability. These guarantees were included in the bid book that was submitted to the International Olympics Committee. The bid book was endorsed by all levels of government: the City of Vancouver, the Municipality of Whistler, the Province of British Columbia, and the Federal Government of Canada. It became a promise that we would uphold the values that we were most proud of.
And I can assure all of those people who voted yes and no that I intend on making sure that the guarantees contained in that bid book are kept.
Lasting legacies to service communities, young and old, for generations to come. Deadlines to complete athletes' villages, which become much needed long-term permanent housing in Vancouver and Whistler.
We will deliver lasting social, cultural, and athletic legacies.
The Vancouver Olympics are now 3 years away, and this documentary is in part a review of how well these promises that were made to us were kept. And besides getting in trouble with the police a few times, we found out a few things about the games.
You guys on. Okay. Now, I'm giving you an order.
So maybe making a documentary wasn't going to be that easy.
Let's go.
It did not take long for the first sign of trouble. The Olympic Games were notorious for going over budget, and it looked like Vancouver was no exception. 3 years after winning the bid, the Vancouver Organizing Committee, or VANOC, was asking the provincial and federal government for $110 million more to complete construction of venues. And we have no guarantees that this will be the last budget shortfall. As stated in the bid book, the province of British Columbia has provided a guarantee to cover any shortfall that may be incurred as a result of the Games.
$660 million now with this. That's already as much money as the entire medical research budget of Canada. That's the Canadian Institute of Health Research, their budget from 2005. We've just spent that on 17 days of party.
How you measure those social benefits largely, and perhaps tourist benefits against the actual hard dollars, which are immense, mostly from the federal and provincial governments, towards putting on the Olympics is a very, very difficult question to answer. Ultimately, if you say that all of the dollars that were spent in building the Olympic infrastructure could have been put towards improving community health care, towards education, towards infrastructure, then it becomes a very, very difficult question to answer.
What stuns me is how you, as a result of having what is essentially a 3-week event coming here in 2010, how it can skew all of the priorities for the entire region. That everything becomes devoted to this 3-week party that's going to happen in 2010. It's like imagining everything that you do in your own life is all designed and built towards your next birthday. Is that this year is going to be planning for my birthday. Well, that's the same way this goes on. It's like everything is being chosen based on a 3-week event. The RAB line was done with a pressure to put on the RAB line was done as a result of the Olympics.
Like the estimated cost, if I remember right, was $1.6 billion. Do you think there's any chance that they'll be on budget?
Oh, they're already off budget.
One of the impacts, probably of the Olympics, is that we're looking at construction inflation right now in the Greater Vancouver area of probably close to 1.5% per month.
We're looking at it happening on an ongoing basis, and what they will do, it'll be like water torture. It'll be drip by drip by drip.
Okay, well, let's see what the budget was. What was the bid budget that we were told as taxpayers was about $1.2 billion. Now that has escalated to $2.5 billion, according to the Auditor General.
So how much will these games cost us exactly? According to the Auditor General's report, $18 per Canadian. That's not so bad. But if you live in British Columbia, you'll pay $440 more, for a total of $458 each. For a family of 4, that's over $1,800 in taxes. Do you think these games will make any money?
For who? That's the question. Who is the games going to make money for? Certainly for the International Olympic Committee. Is it going to be a net benefit for the provincial coffers? Probably not. Not if you look at the total cost of taxpayer money going to the Olympics.
That's the problem with the notion of legacy. It's presented as something that drops from the sky, this free gift. Whereas in fact a legacy is the taxpayers getting what they forked out money for.
Every single set of games, especially since 9/11, have gone way over budget. They're overpromised, under-delivered. You look at the Athens Summers Games, they were selling tickets to events for $11. The hotel vacancy during the actual summer games was around 70%. It downgraded Greece on the EU financial standing. I mean, it's had long-term impacts for taxpayers in that province, and it certainly skirted all of their other priorities down to the bottoms for what, 18 days of games?
It was the Olympics, and you've got to remember the Olympics, and it doesn't matter what it costs or what burden it places or what bad choices are made. As long as it's for the Olympics, then it is good.
London, which is hosting the next Summer Games in 2012, is already $2 billion over budget in the construction of the Olympic Park, and they still have 5 years to go before their games.
Yeah, taxpayers are always told the Olympics are not going to go over budget by a penny. We have the famous quote by the Mayor of Montreal, Mayor Drapeau, saying Olympics could not possibly go over budget as a man could have a baby. Something along those lines. The famous quote by Mayor Drapeau. And of course, Montrealers just finished paying for the the Olympic Stadium just this year, and that was in 1976. So, 31 years later, Montrealers are just paying off the bills.
The big loser is you and me, and all of us who pay our taxes and expect that we're going to get services for the money we pay from taxes to all levels of government. We're the loser, because when that money doesn't come back.
You see, in Vancouver, we've heard promises from Gordon Campbell, the Premier, saying that the Olympics aren't going to cost $1. And we've heard promises from John Furlong that there is no possibility, zero chance whatsoever that we're going to go over budget.
Can the games be green? In other words, have a minimal environmental impact?
They can be green, except that with the development of some of the outdoor facilities, obviously there's some tracts of land, Callahan Valley, for example, up in Squamish, that many of us who've grown up in this area have used for many, many years as one of those more remote camping and fishing and hiking areas that will be significantly developed. So I think as long as there's going to be a significant development, obviously I think it's a bit of a hard reach to say it's going to be a green Olympics. Cross-country skiing events will be held in the Callahan Valley, and up to this point there's been a logging road into it pretty well for many years. I remember going in 20 years ago and more, and I think it'll be fairly well developed with year-round facilities, and certainly heavily used during the winter.
We're standing at the very edge of Callahan Lake. It's the part of the Callahan Valley, which is the Class A provincial park, and is rather the gem of this whole environment. We're situated now about maybe 5 or 8 kilometers from where the Nordic Centre will be for the Olympics.